What's up, guys? It's Addy here, back with another video, and it's been a long time, and I apologize for that, but well, I'm back now. I'm ready to go, and let's get right into it. So a lot has happened since I made my last video, but um, the NBA free agency, all of it. I didn't really cover much of that, but I want to get into that a little bit this video, but then focus on what's currently happening a little more instead. But mainly, a lot of very, very interesting and like super surprising things happened. I mean, Kyrie and KD teaming up in Brooklyn, that was a little expected, but I wasn't expecting Brooklyn. I was thinking more of the New York Knicks, but it happens. And congrats to Brooklyn. I mean, they got a fine team there, and they're definitely going to be a top team in about a year. I think this year is going to be more adjustments for them, and they have a great bench, so really nothing to worry about for them. But honestly, they got a great setup there, and congrats to their fans. Although they lost D'Angelo Russell, which I also personally really loved seeing him in Brooklyn and the way he grew, but that was not as surprising as D'Angelo Russell getting traded to the Warriors, which was very, very surprising. And I want to really see how the Warriors work on that. Trio that they're gonna have. I mean, a splash trio maybe. Klay Thompson's gonna be out pretty much all year, so they don't have to worry about that. I think he might be back in like like 7 6 7 months, but there's no sure timeline on him like Durant, where we know that he won't be back next year. Other than that, I mean, Kawhi Leonard was one of the main free agents this offseason, and he waited a long time to decide where he was going. He let the dust settle on where everyone else was going, and obviously, Kemba Walker signed with the Celtics. That was a big plus. Al Horford, big loss for the Celtics. Also signed with the Sixers. That was a big surprise. So a lot of players came out and just signed with the most random teams that you wouldn't expect them to be on. But it was a good change of pace, and I'm very excited to see what all this change is going to bring next year. And so moving with that, as I was saying, Kawhi Leonard brought it upon himself to ask Paul George to join him in LA, but not the same LA that everyone expected. Instead, the Lakers, who thought they would get Paul George and Kawhi at one point, ended up losing out, and the Clippers came around on top, and just one day, with one deal with OKC that was also record-breaking. They turned the tables, and I think they're a fan favorite. I mean, if anything, they are a definite odds favorite in the West to win, and to make it out of the West and win the championship. So, like, hats off to Jerry West and that whole organization for what they pulled off. I mean, they already had a pretty fine team, but they really worked, and like they grew strides on where they were last year. I mean, they added two superstars in one day. It was, I mean, a huge night for them. But that added on to what I'm going to be talking about is Russell Westbrook has once again been abandoned on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And Paul George, he went to OKC's front office and he asked for a trade. And I'm sure all of you already know about this, but honestly, I feel terrible for him. I hope he can find a way out, or maybe try to find someone else who will join him in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been a really weird kind of organization for the last couple of years, because KD ditched him, and then he finally got they pulled off an amazing trade to get Paul George, which at the time looked like a steal because they only lost Victor Oladipo, but ended up being a win-win for both sides. Indiana got a fantastic young Victor Oladipo and a decent Sabonis, and that trade worked out well until now, when Paul George decided to ditch Westbrook. So the question is, will Westbrook stay, or will he ask for a trade? And I think trade negotiations are already underway, and it's very clear that OKC is looking for a trade now. And I mean, That's all fine. I mean, they got a ton of draft picks. They are ready for the future. They did a pretty good job on that Paul George trade, even though, and the way they were quickly able to pull that off, and, they were willing to let him go where he wanted to go. They didn't really shop him a lot at other teams, and I respect OKC for that. They didn't try to get a better offer or something like that. They looked specifically where he wanted to go. They knew the Clippers were vulnerable because the Clippers were either going to get two superstars or no superstars because Kawhi told him specifically that he wants PG or he's not coming. And OKC used that to their advantage, and they ended up winning a decent. I mean, they did pretty decent in that trade. But the question is, where does Westbrook go? And I don't think he's sticking around anymore. No offense to his loyalty, but a fantastic player like him doesn't deserve to just be sitting around in the same organization if nothing's going on. So the question is, where does he go? And there's three organizations that I think are perfect. I think Miami would be very interesting. I'd love to see Westbrook in a Miami jersey. Miami has a lot of chances to being a decent underdog in the East, and adding in Russell Westbrook would be fantastic for them. They could pull off a Goran Dragic, maybe Kelly Olynyk, something. They got assets to put in the trades. So nothing. I mean, Justice Winslow. They could send some young guys out to OKC, and then they could get Westbrook. And I think the Thunder are very willing to do that as well because they get more space to sign younger guys. They get rid of Westbrook's contract. A lot of things go into it. They know that Westbrook's going to want to leave, and they can get something out of it before Westbrook becomes a free agent whenever, next year or the year after that. I'm not sure. And he's such a great point guard that who wouldn't want him? Another one that really surprised me when I saw it, but then I understood why it was up there, and it made a lot of sense. The Detroit Pistons, they make so much sense. They haven't had a good point guard in a long time. They got Reggie Jackson from OKC, and he wasn't as good as he could have been, and he's a decent point guard, but he's no Russell Westbrook. And adding Westbrook to Blake Griffin, Andre Drummond lineup could be really good for them. Gives Westbrook a lot of less pressure on the defensive end to have to guard up like in OKC. I mean, he had a good center in Steven Adams, but that front court is really helpful for a guy like Russell Westbrook. Spacing the floor for him and being able to drive and do alley-oops and all that. He's a good passer, so I think that works out. But for me, I think the best destination that I would want to see him in is what I'm going to talk about: the Houston Rockets. I think the Rockets are perfect for Westbrook. Already has that experience with James Harden. They got something against Kevin Durant. I would love to see a Houston Rockets versus Brooklyn Nets final, where you get to see Kevin Durant play two of his old teammates. That would be crazy, seeing two MVPs on the same team that are fantastic players. I think Westbrook gets a lot of hate for being a good player, which is insane to me. He's a fantastic passer, dribbler, shooter. He's a decent shooter, but he's a good scorer. I mean, he drops 30 a game and has a triple-double. I mean, that's got to mean something, and I think people are taking for granted what he does in Oklahoma. He drops 30-point triple-doubles every night, and that's crazy. So he needs that recognition again, and I think the best place to get it would be in Houston, where the eyes are on him. They got two really good superstars in Westbrook and James Harden, and honestly, I think there's probably a huge chance Chris Paul would be involved in that trade. But again, Oklahoma could pull off a trade where they avoid getting Chris Paul because they might not want him. I mean, there's no point in getting Chris Paul if you're trying to tank. It's not going to help your cap space or anything. I mean, you just don't want to get that contract on your hands because you never know what you're looking forward to doing. So I think, and for Houston, I mean, if they could find a way to keep Chris Paul somehow and have Westbrook in there, I mean, I don't know exactly how the rotation would work. Honestly, they could maybe do a three guards type of situation. That would be kind of cool. Or maybe switch off where Chris Paul comes off the bench like a Manu Ginobili. I don't know exactly what they're gonna think of. I mean, I don't know how D'Angelo Russell and the Warriors are gonna work, but if they can make that work, then this could work fine as well. I mean, they're all fantastic players. I know Chris Paul doesn't really want to be there, but maybe you trade Chris Paul for a Kevin Love or a Andre Drummond or anybody, Hassan Whiteside. I mean, you don't really need Hassan Whiteside, but I mean, that's just what I'm thinking is that you could use Chris Paul to trade somewhere else or to get Westbrook. I mean, that's all in the future when they really, I mean, decide on that happening. So I think Westbrook should really hope and ask for a trade to the Rockets because I think him and Harden could really do a lot of damage. And they both have a lot on their names for being like not good in the playoffs or sometimes not stepping up, that kind of thing. And they both got some like a chip on their shoulder where they want to prove all the haters wrong. And I really like that kind of story. So I think honestly, if they were gonna find a way to trade Westbrook. The Rockets may not be the most beneficial for OKC, but I think the Rockets could definitely find a way to make it beneficial for them, sending like Eric Gordon or Clint Capella, maybe someone that OKC could use because OKC could definitely use anyone at this point. I mean, their team is pretty much straight garbage, so I think they're going to be pretty open to what they can take. And Westbrook wanting to leave, I mean, they're going to want to move him fast. So I think there's a lot I mean, in this day and age of the NBA, I think the rumors are all kind of all over the place. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs made a run at him or something like that because, this free agency has really been proving that, you never know where anybody will end up. Everyone thought that D'Lo might sign with the Lakers or, KD and Kyrie are going to the Knicks or whatever, but it really doesn't end up that way. It's all over the place. Nobody 6 months ago could have expected Paul George to go to the Clippers, so it's crazy where the NBA is at, which is fantastic. But I think the best place for Russell Westbrook right now to go would be the Houston Rockets, along with a lot of other great places. But the next thing I want to talk about is Kevin Love. So the Portland Trailblazers did a great job picking up Hassan Whiteside, in my opinion. I think Hassan Whiteside's a fantastic center, something they could use while Nurkic is out. I think it's great that they picked him up, but honestly, if they could find a way to maybe trade Hassan Whiteside for him, or they can look into that more. But maybe Al-Farouq Aminu or whoever they have that can be good enough for the Cleveland Cavaliers, which I don't think would be a lot because Kevin Love is not that valuable to them anymore. But Kevin Love to the Portland Trailblazers, I really like this personally. I think it's a great fit. I think a swap for Hassan Whiteside and Kevin Love might not be bad. I think Kevin Love is another guy that's slept on a lot, and he's got some stuff he can work on, but I think he's great in that third role. Damian and CJ McCollum will be the top two, but I think he can be a great supporter in that cast. Portland is a very big sleeper team. I mean, they went to the Western Conference Finals last year. Sure, they were swept, but I mean, it is the Golden State Warriors, and you have to think of it logically. They had so many stars, but this year, Golden State is weaker. There is no Kevin Durant anymore. Obviously, Kevin Durant was out for a lot of games in that series as well, but there is no Kevin Durant, so you have to look at that. And there's no Klay Thompson for a while. You don't know if Klay Thompson will come back all year. So Portland has a good chance at making a deep run. I'm not saying anything is certain on where they would go because the Lakers are really up there now, and so is the Clippers. So Portland's got to know how to fight them. But if I'm the Portland Trailblazers, I'm trying to find a way to expand my team and get some good supporting cast out there for Damian Lillard, who's a fantastic point guard, and he matches up with almost any point guard in the league. And then you got Obviously, C.J. McCollum, who's like his Klay Thompson, he played fantastic in the playoffs. So if they're looking for a little more, something a little more star power, and I think Kevin Love could be the fantastic addition to that team. He has that all-star capability. In Minnesota, he was, special. He was something else, and that's obviously a long time ago, but if you look at it from when he played in Cleveland, he put up pretty decent numbers that they could use, and I think honestly, why not? They don't need Hassan Whiteside as much as they could use a Kevin Love. He stretches the floor. He's a fantastic shooter, rebounder, everything, good passer as well. So I think from all levels, every team is getting better, and I think Portland has done a decent job staying in that talk, but I don't think they've gotten as a lot better as other teams have, and the West has gotten a lot stronger. And if you look at like the Houston Rockets, if they end up getting Russell Westbrook, let's say, it's going to be hard to beat those teams. I don't see Portland beating the Clippers or the Lakers or Golden State or the Rockets if they get Westbrook. So if they want to expand on that, I think it's going to be really important for them to have to find a way to get Kevin Love on their team. I don't know exactly how they could pull it off, but I know that Hassan Whiteside is probably going to be available on their side, and Cleveland, I think, is just looking to add some pieces to help Colin Sexton and Darius Garland grow, and Kevin Love might not be bad for them to just hold on to, but honestly, if I'm them, just let him go, get Hassan Whiteside. I think he's going to be a free agent next year, I believe, and then just let him walk, and you have a little more space to sign another young guy or use that to trade somewhere. Obviously, some picks might be involved as well, but Kevin Love could be a great fit in Portland, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.